explain, and look who I'm sitting with. It's just pure luck. That's great. Hi folks, coming to you from the beautiful Hero Square in Budapest, Hungary, attending the 2022 ESE meeting. So come along with me so we can see what's happening at the ESE. What a beautiful city. All right, past few days here at the ESE has been amazing. A wonderful group of people. Lots of lovely endodontists, general dentists, people interested in endo, giving presentations, attending presentations, and I got a chance to meet a lot of fun and nice people. Overall, ESE is about learning and also making connections, and I think the vibe of this conference this year was really pretty high level. Everybody coming out of the last couple of years with the pandemic and the fact that the last ESE meeting had to be canceled because of the pandemic. The first one after 3 years, the last one was in Vienna, which I attended, was really, the vibe was really exciting and exhilarating, just kind of like the AAE meeting, and a lot of presentations on the topic of skills in instrumentation and access preparation and obturation in surgery and so on. When you give me one of the interesting presentations, and obviously the topic nowadays is mostly about bioceramics. As you know, we've started this revolution. Bioceramics really caught on, and people have been really interested in using the simplicity of this technique for their obturation. And there's a lot of misunderstanding in the sense that some of the speakers were talking as though the question of using bioceramics is really a proven method of increasing your success rate. And I don't think anywhere have we or anyone else has made the claim that you're going to have a much higher success rate by using bioceramic technology for your obturation. The whole essence of using the modern bioceramics is to help improve your efficiency, because previously, because of the poor quality of the cements that we had that were eugenol based and epoxy based, that you were getting either too much shrinkage or no lack of bond and lack of biocompatibility and hydrophobic kind of cements that required this concept of really increasing the amount of condensation to minimize the amount of sealer, so minimizing the sealer interface. And then when the bioceramic technology became available is when we realized that we don't really need to do all of that stuff, and that perhaps what we can do is shape a constant taper preparation and just rely on the cement-based obturation to fill in the gaps. And there was still, as usual, a lot of talk about the single cone, and I think I've kind of made that clear. The single cone is not the correct term for this, because these cements, the bioceramic cements, are now called hydraulic cement. Hydraulic condensation, as opposed to vertical condensation or lateral condensation, is a better terminology for this particular techniques that are used for obturating based on these types of cements or cement-based obturation. When you say single cone, it means that you're only supposed to use one cone. And I don't think you should be using one cone in a very large canal that has a lot of space on the sides, because if you don't use additional cones to fill in those spaces, you are going to get a lot of voids potentially in those little gaps and areas. The only difference, however, is that because you get a percha cone as your condenser, you are only going to add a couple of additional accessory, or if you will, confirmation cones to fill in those gaps, and then melt off the gutta percha at the orifice, or maybe just a half a millimeter above the orifice, so that it creates a little bit of molten gutta percha that you can then plug down with your big plugger and create that nail head that helps you cover any potential seams of sealer that are on set, so that you can then go ahead and place your core right on top of that. So that's a key thing. And the question had come up also is that, well, you know, there's not a lot of outcome studies and so on. And it is true that the only outcome study is from the Dr. Heath's group in Baylor that shows a similar success rate as other techniques in terms of radiographic success rate. I've also mentioned to you guys that I had done the survival study at my office based on one of my residents that had come out, and we had also a very high survival rate, which was also comparable to other techniques with this technology. And lastly, a couple of cases I want to talk to you about. One is the very first case of Bioceramic, actually the very first case in North America. And the reason I know that is because I did that the day after his FDA approval, and I'd worked on the technique before. And I tried to get a hold of this patient after 14 years, who moved out of the city. But I managed to have him have one of his dentists take an x-ray and send that to me so that I could have that. I will do a little video on that probably a little bit later on. But before I leave you here, I want to just share with you this case of this gentleman. This is a very nice patient that I saw in 2008, so right after the first year of hydraulic condensation, where I was using this technique on all the cases. So it came back in 2018. I want to talk about the 5 teeth that I did for him in this little quick video. Okay, this is the case of a very nice patient, Ehud, who needed 5 root canals in 2008. Yeah, I was originally going to just skip the little conversation I have with him to introduce him, and then talk about the 5 teeth that I did in him. But let's quickly just listen to our conversation.
Okay, I'm here with Ehud. Ehud, thanks so much for doing this. But I just wanted to get a quick little video put together. I saw Ehud back in 2008, correct?
Yeah.
And we unfortunately had to do 5 molar root canals on you, correct?
That's correct.
And how did the procedures go? Did you have any discomfort after the root canal?
No, not at all. It was almost a pleasant experience.
I wouldn't call root canal therapy a pleasant experience, but so we had all 5, and you're now back in 2016. We did a little recall, and the radiograph looks great. You're having no symptoms?
No.
Everything's going well?
Yeah.
Terrific. Well, thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you, Dr. Nancy.
Oh, he was such a nice guy, and I was so young, I tell you. All right, so this is the first tooth that we did for him in May 2008, tooth number 2, which is a maxillary second molar. Now, the reason he needed all of this stuff was as a part of this massive restorative work. He was having a total oral rehabilitation, and so some of his teeth ended up being sensitive and having problems and going through irreversible pulpitis as a result of these restorations. And with the tooth number 2, second molar, you can see even back then I was placing a little canal cap on these teeth, and I think at that point I might have been using glass ionomer or something like that. But the general dentist went in there and removed part of it, put on the core and placed the crown. And in 2016, you can see that everything remains stable. The little area of radiolucency on the palatal root, although small, is gone. The cement, and you can see the little puff that's present is still present in 2016, and that's great. The next one we did for him in July was tooth number 12, which, as you can see, was a part of a 3-unit bridge that had an apical lesion at the apex, and so we did that. And this is before CBCTs, but we did end up finding the 3-rooted premolar and managed to treat all 3 of them. There's a puff on the palatal root, as you can see here, and you can also see that the bridge is not really the best bridge, and that was part of the plan for him to change it. But after we did that in 2008, he returned back in 2008 to do the other molar after the tooth remained, the bridge remained sensitive, and we did that one. And in 2016, you can see that both of these, he didn't replace the bridge, but they just filled the access preparations. But what's more important here to see is the fact that the cement and the little puffs have been stable from 2008 to 2016, over 8 years, and everything is doing well. And that's the key part here. Then later on, we ended up doing to the lower second molar for him on the right side. And what was interesting on this case, when the general dentist went back inside his tooth, unfortunately, they caused a little bit of a perforation on the furcal area of it after they wanted to remove some of that gutta percha for some reason. And so I went back and I repaired it in 2010 with the putty, as you can see here. On the right side, that the putty was used to repair that little perforation. And then in March of 2010, we ended up doing his first molar that would become at that point symptomatic again. And in 2016, we take an image of both of them, and you can see the root canals are stable, and even the perf repair in the focal area on the second molar that was repaired with the putty has remained intact. So this is kind of a long-term follow-up, if you will, on one patient that shows very good stability of the sealer and the cement and pretty good outcomes with just following the basic principles of cleaning, shaping, and obturation. All right, so as you saw, granted that these things, you could make a very good argument, these are anecdotal, if you will, but you have 5 teeth in this one patient, and we have a fairly long recall on it, and it shows the stability of the cement during this time, and that really is a key point here, is the stability of these cements is a key thing in the long run. We know that our success rate in the short run is really dependent on the quality of our instrumentation and disinfection and irrigation. There's no question about that. All studies show that. But in the long run, it's the stability of the cement that is important, the material that is important. That's part of the reason why things like Resilon did not do so well after 6 to 8 years, because the cement did break down. And that's what we're facing now. So now for me, BC Sealer and the Sequence BC Sealer is being the original and now the only cement that has that kind of a 14-year track record. And I have done 12,000 cases with it in my own office over the past 14 years. And we know that over 30 million cases have been done worldwide, and we don't have a problem like we did have with Resilon. So I think after this 14 years, we can safely say that the materials, the stability in the long term is good and it is safe. We can't say necessarily the same thing with some of the newer materials that are coming out, and that's what Dr. Camilleri lecture at the ESE was all about, is the idea that we really have to pay attention to the composition of these materials because they're all very different. And in order to get around the patents, so on, every company has to have their own little formulation. So you need to read the MSDS sheets, and then you're taking a leap of faith in terms of the long-term stability, because different chemical composition could very well mean a different type of a outcome. But at the end of the day, the decision is yours, and you need to make that decision and take that chance for your patients. Having looked at the chemical composition of BC Sealer originally, I invested into it and developed it, and then obviously, as you know, I developed a putty to kind of go along with it for the lead technique. And I'm glad that it's now the fastest growing obturation technique and cement worldwide, and that's really thanks to you guys and to the fact that you've trusted me in knowing that the material is safe based on the techniques and technology that I've shared with you over the past 14 years. All right, guys, so I hope this video was helpful to you. If you do get a chance, come and visit Budapest. It is an incredible city. It's a lot of history, a lot of beautiful architecture, great food. You can't go wrong with goulash soup. With that, I'll leave you guys. I'll see you in the next video. And thank you to ESE and to Hungary and Budapest for having me. And for Real Window, I'm Alan ESE, and let's save some tea.
Yeah. Victoria Cucci here. Great presentation.
Thank you very much.
What I like most about the endo, it is the only dental specialty that cares about the inner beauty of the tooth.
Nothing is exciting in endo. If you're practicing for 28 years, nothing is exciting anymore.
Great presentation.
Yes, yes. All friends from Qatar. We're going to see you at the World Cup.
I think there is a great variability, and we can have a surprise each day in a different case. So we are always on the track.
Happy to see you here, and thank you for everything.
When I was a student in undergrad and after in postgrad, and now I am a consultant, I'm learning from him all the time. Thanks for all the efforts you're doing for us. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Left my iPhone in the cab. Oh my God, you won't believe what happened. I went to the Congress a little bit early this morning. I woke up to a meeting and I was filming like a dummy, and I left my iPhone in the cab as I got off. And as soon as I got off, I found out that I had left my phone, and so I didn't know what to do because the cab had left already. Luckily, it was with Bolt, which is kind of like a Uber thing. So I didn't have a phone to call them or anything, so I had to come back to the hotel and use my computer to use my, find my iPhone app. Found the thing and I activated it, that it's lost. It kind of rang. Thank God the guy found it and brought it back. Otherwise, it would have been screwed. So one more stupid lost thing. I'm really good with my phone normally. I have no idea what the heck happened. But anyway, so all's well that ends well. Got my phone. So addicted to this thing, but it's so necessary nowadays. Whole world.